to be in a virtual room with all of you who are caring for so many in your communities across the global footprint and more. I love seeing your beautiful, familiar faces. But if you choose not to have your camera on, that's okay too. I'm also happy to see your names because I know you. And it's just a joy to be in this room with you. Now, you all have submitted some really good questions in advance. What we try to do is we try to sort of group them in categories. Often we get several questions that are sort of focusing on the same things, but worded a little bit differently. And so you all really went to great lengths to ask a variety of questions. And so this is being recorded in case you have to leave early. You can always find it in our community forum. I always say give us a week to get it in there because it's a little tedious to take the video and do all the things we do to post it there. But then you can either invite someone else from your leadership team to go back and review it, or you can, if you ever sign up and don't make it, know that it's always in community forum. So there is a really large list of questions, and I'm going to start with a question that I think many chapters kind of struggle with, and that is, how our chapters utilize paid help? And I think inherent in this question is, do our chapters utilize paid help? And I would say the vast majority of our chapters do not utilize paid help. If they do, however, far and away the most common, and in my opinion, the most useful, is to get a contracted administrative person, someone who can manage your membership database to make sure that everything's current, who might open your mail, take care of meeting scheduling, et cetera, et cetera. That is by far the most common. Typically, it would be a contracted administrative helper, and that contracted helper might work a couple hours a week, depending. Very often, getting a grant to help provide the funding for that kind of assistance is the best way to go. There are times when one person in particular, whether it's someone on your board or someone in the community, who says, oh my word, you really should get some help with your administrative tasks, they will offer to pay. There are agencies that provide those kinds of executive assistant sort of trained people, but and then you can also individually find people. That by far is the number one use of paid help. I see a few of you who have utilized some paid help in the past or presently. Anything you want to add to either how useful paid help might be, or why or how you got it funded, etc. Any other comments from the group regarding getting some extra help? Hey, Beth.
Hi, how are you?
I'm happy to see you.
In Owensboro, we do have an administrative assistant that we pay. She's paid by the hours that she works, and part of her salary comes from our friends' money. We have members plus friend, which means that people pay 110%, and sometimes they will just donate to our friends' account, and she is paid through that, and she does a lot of our administrative work. She sends out all of our member emails in group through MailChimp and all the different programs that we use. She's the gal who does that. She also does our newsletter. So we do use her for a lot of the administrative side of things.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in on the idea of a paid help? Hi, Lee, go ahead.
Hi,
Nice to see you too.
nice to see you. We pay someone for data entry and management. We have a website consultant because we don't have those skills in-house. There's things that are not as intuitive as they should be. And occasionally we need a graphic designer because we also don't have that kind of professional skill in-house, but it's all quite modest, I have to say. But everybody gives us a break on the price.
Excellent. Yeah. Good. Okay. Doesn't look like anyone else is weighing in here. So thank you. That was a really good question. I have another question, and it's about what are the most helpful ideas for making sure everyone feels included in events? And they gave a couple of examples like greeters at the door, passing trays, and a few words. I would say, as an Impact 100 organization, really the most important thing for us to do is to make sure that our members and our friends who arrive at a meeting in person or in a virtual room feel like they belong, they feel seen, they feel recognized. Most chapters don't do a lot in terms of Zoom meetings, and they might reserve those Zoom meetings for board and other leadership meetings. But I will say, even within your board, maybe especially within your board, whether it's a board meeting, a leadership meeting, or an event, a meet and greet, or my latest favorite expression, a wine and sign. Thank you. That was my reaction when I heard that. I was like, how did we not know wine and sign was a thing? So I think I'm seeing y'all write that down. We will all be incorporating that into our future recruiting events. You want everyone to feel welcome and seen, that there is a place for them and that they belong. It's one thing, we can all say in a group, hey, we're going to make everyone feel welcome. But unless you go to the effort of designing what making people feel welcome looks like, you won't achieve the level of belonging that you are hoping to. And so having people who are assigned greeters, make sure it's the right people. It's such an obvious thing to say, but you want an extrovert and you want someone who knows a lot of people so that they can say hello to Sue. And when Sue says what part of town she lives in, or that this is their first meeting, that person's going to know exactly where to bring Sue, who to introduce her to, or what to do next. Being a greeter, giving sometimes members, especially those who are new and maybe a little uncomfortable, if they allow them to volunteer to be a helper. If you walk in and you don't know anyone and you had volunteered to be at the registration table, you're going to start meeting people and you're going to start putting faces with names. And so sometimes the people that want to be connected might best be connected by becoming one of your volunteers. You also want to make sure that your name tags are clear and easy to read. If different, depending on how far along in your trajectory or what the event is, you might have them put what part of town they're from or what grant category they're most interested in, or how many years they've been involved in your chapter. You can sort people by a variety of ways that kind of create icebreaker conversations that allow people to connect. And making sure that you let people know exactly what to expect when they show up to an event, be it virtual or otherwise. Use people's names, explain things that you think should have been clear, like, oh, well, we said it when we sent out the invitation. The more of that sort of thing you do, the more welcome people feel. If it is a recruiting event, one of the things that is really, really effective is a simple show of hands. So when you're starting most every recruiting event, and frankly, most every other in-person event we do, at some point, someone is going to be speaking in the front of the room with a microphone or at least a loud voice, asking a question like, how many of you are brand new to Impact 100, and have them raise their hand? Or how many of you are already a member? And then you can say, for those of you who are new here, see all those women with their hands raised? Feel free to talk to them about their membership experience. Create an environment whereby saying out loud how women should feel connected, it's part permission slip and part kind of mandates. It sets the stage for who we want to be. I think you can also say to everyone in the room, look, we've all been in a situation where we didn't know anyone in a meeting. If that's you, please walk up to somebody with a blue name tag because they're a board member, or please just start chatting with the neighbor next to you, because if you came in alone, I promise you will not leave alone. You will know people, you will feel connected. But saying it from the podium and not just whispering it in people's ears, one-on-one conversation can be a powerful turning point. Our work is complex because when you look at your local community, in order for us to be successful, we know that we want to attract women from every aspect of the community, from every walk of life. And in doing so, we're pulling together this sort of beautiful petri dish of people with very different lived experiences, very different backgrounds, very different worldviews, and we're putting them all together. If we don't do something intentional to draw in commonalities, to help people forge friendships and realize the things they have in common, we've missed an opportunity. And if I'm the only person from my zip code, or I'm the only person who homeschools my children, or who is there for the very first time, I may not come back if I don't feel connected to the group. And ultimately, belonging not only fuels your membership recruiting, but it is the engine that powers your retention. And so bless you. And so it is really important to stay on top of those kinds of connections, and you really can't overstate it. Does anyone have additional thoughts of what you all do to help make people belong? Anything we haven't mentioned, or perhaps things that we have mentioned that you do in a bigger, better, or different way? We'd love to hear from you. Beth, go right ahead.
Wendy, I'm sorry. We have a mentorship program in Owensboro, and so we connect all of our new members with a member who's been around for a while, and then they track them and say, like, hey, are you coming to this event or that event? And then they look for them there so that they can reach out to all those new members and kind of make sure that they're all talking and meeting other people, introducing them to other people. So our mentorship program works pretty well for us.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in? I know that Sacramento has an ambassador program. that has been very robust and successful, that is similar, I think, Beth, to your mentorship program. But I know y'all do a couple of other things, not to put you on the spot. But I see Lisa and I see Trudy. So if one of you or anyone else want to add anything to about the Sacramento Ambassador Program.
Trudy.
Lisa.
She has a million great ideas.
I'll jump in then.
Yeah,
you two are.
I'm sorry, there's Evelyn.
We have a very successful ambassador program, as you said. Lisa oversees that through her VP of membership position. And their job is to make sure that they attend events and to make sure that nobody is by themselves.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in on feeling of belonging?
I guess I could kind of jump in on that too. One of the things as ambassadors we also do is at any event, like Evelyn had stated, we make sure they're not alone. So if that means like recently at our big reveal event, we just made sure that many of the new members were partnered with ambassadors. So they had somebody to sit by them and to introduce them to people and to kind of show them the ropes, show them around.
Nice. Thank you. Very good.
And we also
all right.
We have a new member liaison also that reaches out when we have new enrollments to welcome them into the organization. And above all else, we are still working on ways to stay engaged with the new members. Like we have also what we call a wine and talk that's coming up. We have lunch bunch. We have a million ideas on this that we're, working on to keep them engaged and to help with, our retention. So
I am going to change that. It's actually Sip and Talk. And the reason we did it Sip and Talk instead of Wine and Talk is so they can go to coffee shops and people who don't drink feel included. But yeah, those are really important elements that we've added in.
Excellent. All right. Now, Joni?
Wendy, I was just going to say one of our challenges that we've realized we need to address and figure out ways to get around it is, it's not just new members. We have a lot of older members and the not so older members. We have a lot of ladies who have cancer right now, who have husbands with cancer. For whatever reason, we're not seeing them at events, and they are like longtime members. And we talked about it because it's like, gosh, it seems like the only time we really are checking in with people is during membership renewal. And it's kind of like, well, we don't have your check, so we're checking in. And it almost seems a little disingenuous. We care about you when we want your 1,000, but the rest of the time we're like tapping out. And so we don't have a solution for this yet. So there's something we just started talking about today is how can we get some of the ladies, especially some of the ladies who are on the older side, who those are their friends and their peers, how can we include them in helping us reach out to those folks?
Well, I think, what I know is that there are many, many chapters who keep track of their member birthdays. They may not be able to know what year, like, I don't know that you're turning 60, but you know that it's your birthday. And so creating handwritten cards, in the junior league, there used to be I want to say it was called something like a sunshine committee. And it was one of those things where this relatively small group of people would take care of the needs, like they just had a baby and someone organizes to bring a few meals or to put together a basket that welcomes or, whatever it may be. As you point out, sometimes the absences are not joyful. and just being there, having something that feels much more personal. If you don't know why someone isn't there, it's hard to know what they need. And so I think you really made the point yourself. Regular touch points that are universal without knowing why they're not there will perhaps help you to open up the lines of communication and to learn what's happening if there's a way for you to help, or at least, to your point, to establish what feels more like a relationship and not a transaction. And I think that there are always, in every Impact 100 community, there's always a fair number of women who are like, I will send birthday cards from the whole thing. In the we used to, I haven't sat on an Impact 100 board in a hot minute, but what we used to do is the secretary would have birthday cards or other cards if someone was in the news, that would be like literal Hallmark cards or wherever. And during our board meeting, we would pass it around and everyone on the board would sign. If they know the person, they would sign a personal note. If they didn't, they would simply sign as being part of the board. Those were very well received. And it's not, if it feels overwhelming, I can tell you it really isn't. It can be a very well-oiled machine, but like everything else, it's finding the right person who's going to know what's happening in the community, who's watching your local news. I see it on social media now all the time. Impact members around the footprint who they were just recognized at this gala or they were just given this award. Those kinds of recognitions, something happens in their business life or in their family, their child got accepted at the school they wanted and now they're going off to Georgia. To be able to reach out to those people, those moms or spouses or sisters or selves, I think is really important, because belonging and staying connected are two sides of the same coin. And there are many women who, without a solid relationship with someone with an impact, may not ever share what struggle they might be going through. And so for all those reasons, learning as much as we can and providing, again, outreach that's very predictable. And it could be photocopying a newspaper article or screenshotting an online news story and sending it to someone via email or via regular mail to say, I thought of you when I read this, or I thought of you when I heard this TED Talk, or whatever it might be. Something that's generally around empowering women and philanthropy and community activism is one of those. You find one article and you could send it to a variety of people for a variety of reasons, but it's getting creative and it's really identifying a need. We know we need to do this. How do we best do it for our community? Okay, we've got a lot of questions, so I don't want to stay too deep in this because otherwise I won't get past this question. So I'm moving to membership. And we have a question. Many members have pledged to renew, but are not sending in their checks. What do we do? It's funny. Traverse City has this great visual, and when I saw it, it made me so happy. But it's an image of Pinky's doing, without a pen, Pinky's doing this, like a pinky pledge. And in the newsletter, it's like, you pledged to be an Evergreen member. Please fulfill your pledge so that we can reach our goal. I think the notion of a pinky pledge is such a beautiful and simple and clear message that says, you made a commitment and we're counting on you, the visual alone, you know immediately what it is. And we obviously want people to react. The other side of it is to, the more we can convert our evergreen members, those members who have pledged, into actually giving, is in part, we want to make sure that we can take ACH payments or EFT payments, depending on how you describe it, which is basically debiting a checking account versus a credit or debit card. We often have a misunderstanding where a member will say, I told you I was an evergreen member. Why aren't you just taking the payment? And you all are saying, because we can't take the payment because we either don't have your credit card information or we don't have access. The idea of having it set up in your payment system as a recurring payment. So to be right now, if you wanted to donate to virtually any organization, it will have a drop-down menu. Is this one time or is it more frequently? Somebody has some beat that is blasting every once in a while. And so you want to be able to allow that drop-down menu for those members who are budgeting their $1,000, let them give a recurring gift monthly or quarterly of a certain amount. And then when they do it once, it's authorized until they tell it to stop. The same thing is true if you can have it be annual. The reason that you want the ACH payment is twofold. First of all, people's credit cards and debit cards get compromised, they expire, so they change. Idea that someone pledges today on a debit card, that by next year they could have a whole new card number or a new expiration date or both. So you want to offer the debit of a checking account. Most people keep their deposit accounts the same, but their credit and debit cards change. The other reason is there's a credit card fee. There's typically not a fee to debit your checking account. It is a win for everyone. So when you're setting up your payment methods, adding the addition of a check and adding the recurring of yearly, and these are whether it's monthly, quarterly, yearly, you want to make sure that it is until I tell you to stop. That's what evergreen member means, and that will help you. So I would also say there are lots of chapters who open their membership drive asking people to pledge. I see it at annual award celebrations or annual meetings where all we're asking for our members to do in that moment is to say, count me in. And sometimes count me in is a bauble that hangs on a tree. It's a heart that goes on a poster. It's a logo that says, count me in. That does not serve you very well. It might give you an initial indication of people who are open to rejoining, but it still leaves you with having to recruit every single one of those. Instead, make it a stronger ask. And if you can, provide an incentive. At the annual awards celebration, that's the one time when members are just living the heartbeat of what we do at Impact 100. And the ideal time to find out if they're willing to renew is from the point where the presentations have been made, the votes have been cast, but we don't yet know the outcome of the vote. During that timing is when you want to inspire your members to join. The words from the stage sound something like, we had 5 amazing finalists and only 4 are going to be funded. Wouldn't it be amazing if next year we could fund all 5? Or we had one, we want two, and so on. You know how that works. Order an anonymous donor, or there might be a donor whose name we know, who says, for every member who pays in full, who renews by a certain day. Some chapters are bold and they say, who renew tonight. Some chapters, if your annual award celebration is on a Sunday, they might say, if you renew by the end of the week, or if it's on the 15th of the month, maybe if you renew by month end. But give a very near term deadline where their membership has to be fully funded, and that when it is fully funded, this great thing will happen. So for every member that rejoins at 110% or rejoins at all by a certain day, someone will give an extra $100 to the wish lists of the finalists who are not being funded today, or would add an extra something to help cover the administrative costs of our chapter, or who knows. But you want to have an incentive, because everybody knows that the annual award celebration is the start of membership recruitment. And often it's 3-4 months before your deadline. Women like to hold on to our money. And so we are very likely to wait till the last minute. Almost every chapter brings in 50% of their membership dollars in the couple of weeks approaching your deadline. The more you can do to back that date up, the better off you are. The more you can do that, you will find out that as you train your members to, instead of waiting until the last minute, maybe it's everyone who re-ups by the annual meeting, it's part of your preliminary marketing, will get an amazing piece of swag at the annual meeting. You'd be amazed what women will do for a cool piece of merch. And so it's really about doing your best to shore up those who have committed in our minds, perhaps loosely committed in their minds, and turn it into something. Asking people to say, count me in, or I'm back in 2026, or whatever the campaign might be, I think you miss an opportunity to actually move the needle, and you end up creating a lot more work for yourselves. Any other words of wisdom or strategies that you all use to turn our pledged into funded? Evelyn?
So I stole this from American Heart. We actually put an application in each packet at the annual celebration, so everyone gets an application. We do an actual fund drive there, where we make it very fun. We give everyone who pre-commits or fills out their application that night a light up lei. And so it's light up the night, and it's been really, really successful.
Excellent. Very good. Anyone else? Okay. Terrific. Thank you. Great ideas. Shifting a little bit here, how do chapters approach succession planning? Do they have a nominating process, and how public are they about the process? This is the $1 million question. It's one of the most important things that you'll ever do, and it can be complicated. And what I will say is, getting the right people in your leadership is critical. I am not personally in favor of broadcasting to your membership, hey, we have some open roles on the board. If you're interested, apply. The reason is that you will have very specific needs for the board. More importantly, though, you're building a culture. Your board culture will make or break your success. If your board is fortunate to have a strong culture of women who do what they say they're going to do, who collaborate with each other, who show up at meetings, who respect both the organization and each other, who come with fresh ideas and who are always willing to roll up their sleeves, count your blessings and protect the culture. If you don't have that culture today, you've got to identify why. The problem with making this like open call is that this is a working board. Very often you will get people in the community who may have a reputation for being difficult to work with, but they're one of your members and now they want to be on your board, and somebody on your board, if not everyone on your board, has to have the uncomfortable conversation that we're not going to invite her to one of these open roles. Every board nomination should come from within your leadership. It is critical. Yes, there's normally someone whose job it is on the board to be the head of nominating. Sometimes it's the president-elect or the vice president. The reason why they would be at the head of nominating is partially for self-serving reasons. If they're in line for the presidency within a year or two, it behooves them to help build a board that not only accomplishes everything and achieves the goals that we want to in this period of time before she's president, but she will really want her team around her when she becomes president. And so the culture is important. There are boards that have what they refer to as a culture keeper, somebody who's sort of the litmus test of, you know, you've recommended so-and-so to come in as a grants liaison, but she was on a site visit and insulted the very nonprofits that we were visiting by her tone or her attitude. She might not have meant it, but she did. And so therefore, we don't think it's good to get her on the board, and certainly as a grants liaison, just to give an example. Protecting your culture, you need skills for sure. You need the culture. One effective way to do it is also, especially for those of you who are relatively new chapters, each one of your chairs is working hard. You're building the airplane while you're flying it. Finding someone who can be your vice chair or your co-chair, therefore they work in tandem with you. You train them while you're doing the work, and with the hope that eventually when you roll off the board or shift from head of membership to head of something else, that you will have trained your successor, that your successor would have been showing up to board meetings and performing. It's a little bit like having an intern before you hire them, or a probationary period. If the person you select is not a good co-chair or vice chair of your committee, doesn't show up, doesn't get it, isn't totally bought into the process, then she may never leave that, she may not ever grow beyond that position, and she may or may not stay on the board depending on what she might bring to the table. But you want to be thinking about always looking out into the community. Back when every single chapter formed, you were all given the same advice, and that is to create a spreadsheet of potential people in the community who could be members, and of those who could be leaders. And that was the original database. That's how you got your prospective members. And in many cases, that's how you got your prospective board members. If you're adding new members to your board, I know it's tedious. People hate it when I say this, but it really is effective. You should have them fill out that spreadsheet, because every new member that joins your leadership team, they know people you don't know, either in their workplace, in their neighborhood, just in their lived experiences. And we don't want to lose that intellectual capital. Sometimes once they're on the board and they're thick in doing the work, when you ask them to go back and create such a list, or you ask them to brainstorm, their head's so deep in the weeds of what they do and how they do it that it can be hard to think beyond that about the people they know. And so it's best to get them fresh on the front end. If that ship has sailed, then I would absolutely, maybe part of your board retreat, you should be saying, let's brainstorm. Let's think about all the people in our community. Who are those unsung heroes that we either don't have yet as a member or don't have yet as a leader? I have no qualms about having someone join your leadership team who's never been a member. If you look at every founding board, well, most founding boards, you don't get a lot of the initial leadership team who've ever been a member of a chapter, but they believe in it and they're willing to move ahead. If some fabulous woman moves to town or suddenly comes into your radar and you believe that she has what it takes, there are no hierarchies in Impact 100. I'd love to have them already have a lot of experience, but as long as they understand the work, they could be a huge asset. It is something, nominating is one of those things that should always be in the back of your mind. If you lead a committee, whether it's a focus area committee, an ambassador committee, marketing committee, that it involves other members, be looking at those members and feel like, this woman really has something special. She would be an asset to the board. Start identifying in your mind who those people may be and write them down. Make sure that your board has a keeper of those potential names, whether it's your nominating chair, whether it's your administrative person, whether it's your president. You've got to keep a list of potential. Life happens. People move away. People, have other things that draw their attention. You always want to have a strong bench of women who you would feel good about inviting onto your leadership team. I would keep it private. I would keep it within your board. You are a membership organization, but you are not a member-directed organization. If your bylaws don't say that your board nominates and replaces your board, that it's not a vote of the membership, you need to change your bylaws. Your bylaws are designed to do just that, so that board members approve, nominate, vet other board members. Anything else on nominating or thoughts, questions about that? Okay, excellent. Great question. Here's another great question. What are the most successful ways for Impact to raise its profile in the community? This is not a one-size-fits-all answer. I can tell you one of the really cool ways, so there are lots of traditional ways, and we'll talk about it, but I was recently reminded of something that the Sarasota chapter has done for years, maybe since year one. They have a table at the farmer's market. Brilliant. They have a table at the farmer's market. I have friends who visit Sarasota from far-reaching places, and they will text me a picture and be like, thought I might find you here because, this is what this farm stand has. Not everybody, so many people go to farmers markets. So many people go every single Saturday or Wednesday or whatever day of the week it is. This is a great way to connect with people, all kinds of people. And so I think having presence, you really want to be thinking about where women convene. Another way to raise the profile is to write an op-ed for your local paper, whether it's a print paper or an online paper. Cultivate relationships with media. You want to also get in front of as many groups as you can. You want to speak at the local Zonta, the local Junior League, the local Chamber of Commerce, all the ways that people convene. You want to keep doing that. Celebrate your successes. Being active and engaged both in social media and in real life socializing helps to connect. Celebrate your members, assuming your members are okay with being public. If Jane Doe just got named the head of your local hospital system and she's one of your members, say, we celebrate Jane Doe and the Mercy Hospital system for their compassionate care, as evidenced by the fact that Jane Doe is a member of blah, blah. So think about how to be in places where people are and to do so in a powerful way. We have chapters who instantly get the swag that they get are sports shirts, the high-tech fabrics that wick sweat and all of that. And it started, we had those in Cincinnati, I think by year 2. So that when you were out, whether you were at the gym or whether you were out in a park, you're wearing this workout shirt or cap or something that tells the world who you are and that you're involved. For those of you who live in neighborhoods, getting those yard signs that say a Proud Impact 100 global member lives here. You want to make sure that you're putting your chapter name out there. I understand that doesn't work for high-rise communities or it doesn't work for big cities, but if you've got yards and you've got ways to share that, it can help. There are window clings for the back of your car. In the early days, there were bumper stickers. There were the swag license plate frames that give, the name of your chapter and a website. Today, my word, you could have a QR code. And join us at. All of these things will help to raise the profile. Also, odds are when you were launching, you went on, all the different media and tried to get coverage. But what about celebrating the nonprofit that you might have funded this year or 10 years ago? When something amazing happens for them, when they reach a milestone. Going on local radio is always the lowest hanging fruit in getting media coverage. Getting on a morning or an afternoon talk show to be able to celebrate what that nonprofit has done in the community and what role your chapter may have played in it. These are all ways to elevate. Those radio commentaries or radio hosts they're always looking for new stories to tell, and it can't always be about Impact 100. Sometimes it can be about a nonprofit that you're talking about in the context of Impact 100. Maybe the nonprofit leader and someone from your board are going in together to do a media blitz over either funding or some other milestone that the nonprofit has hit. So you want to think big. You want to leverage your resources. If you have a big event, it's not all that hard to have your mayor make a proclamation that today is Impact 100 Westchester Day, because you're giving away a milestone amount of money or in a milestone year. And so having a representative from local government with a proclamation, again, it gives you more things to talk about. It gives you more ways that you can be elevated. And I think that this is just the tip of the iceberg. In your own community, you're going to have other ways that are important. Maybe if your local area does an Athena Award, which not all local areas do, make sure that people on your board are nominated for it. Because that kind of an award, again, it gives more credibility to your organization, not to mention whoever the hardworking women are on your board, they're going to be so honored and delighted to be submitted for that kind of a nomination. So think big, think outside the box, and try to do your best to leverage the community as best as you can. I know we're almost out of time. Any other things to add to that list of? Okay, I'm going to try to get a couple more in. What types of training sessions do other chapters offer nonprofits to prepare for the LOI and grant application process? I would say most chapters have training sessions that are around our applications, our deadlines, the attachments, kind of what we're looking for, the lens by which we will judge the applications that come in. There are others, in addition to those events, which I think are the bare minimum. Like, you have to do it. Even if you've been in the community for decades, you're going to have new people, your newer nonprofits, those who haven't applied before. This is key. You want to record them. You want to offer them in, more than once so that everyone can take part. Beyond that, there are inspirational settings where nonprofits are invited to come and to bring their board. There's an inspirational speaker. And the message is basically to the nonprofit world, look, we exist to fund you. Our goal this year is 500 members, which means we're going to give away $1 grand in each one of these focus areas. But we can't do it unless we get strong applications from every one of these 5 focus areas. Inspire them to dream big. Inspire them to imagine receiving $100,000. How would it change the trajectory of their mission, of their programming, of how they serve their community? These things are really important, and they make a compelling difference. There are other times when we invite nonprofits in the community to hear from a nonprofit recipient of our grant, and also to hear from a nonprofit that wasn't funded. So, our nonprofits are all so busy and life is hard and there's a lot that they're juggling. And so they might look at Impact 100 and say, oh, I could never get that 100,000 plus grant. I'm too busy to apply. When they hear from someone who was awarded the grant and also someone who wasn't, and the ripple effect, the impact of Impact 100 that follows, you'll be providing a much needed lifeline. And they might just take the time to do that. So it's really important that we open those up. Any other kinds of events or things that you use for nonprofit training? Okay, we have 3 minutes left. Spreading the word to nonprofit. You want to cast a really wide net. First and foremost, with every new member you get or every current member, always ask them, include it in your membership renewal forms and your membership joining forms. What nonprofits should we know about? What nonprofits do you care about that you fund, and allow them space to include as many as they can. So you want your members to tell you the nonprofits they care about and who they're funding. You also want to go to the other funders. You want to go to your local community foundations, Jewish Federation. You want to go to corporate foundations, family foundations, United Ways. You want to get the list from those people and add them to your mailing list so that yours is comprehensive. You want to cast a wide net. This is where you might put in the community calendar of your public television, your local radio, whoever does community calendars that are free, your chamber. You want to say, we're going to have a grant training program coming up on this day. All nonprofits in this defined geography, and tell them what that is, are welcome to join us to learn more and to apply. It's really casting a very wide net, and also doing some personal asks. It still requires, the biggest mistake we make is when we have our members, we think, oh my gosh, look, we're giving away a grant of $123,000. Applications should come out of the woodwork. And they don't, because the reality of this situation is executive directors and development directors at nonprofits are stretched thin. So we want to invite them, we want to make it personal, and we want to make it compelling in order to spread the word. Having events, inviting their board members, picking a region and going out, or a focus area, and going out and meeting one-on-one with nonprofits to say, please apply, here's who we are, here's why we want you to apply. Okay, lots more questions that I didn't get to. I know that one of the questions is, what can we expect from the conference in Florida? Holy moly, it's straight up top of the hour, but I will go over to tell you this. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you this will be our best conference yet. So who are we going to hear from? We're going to hear from some of you. We are going to hear about the successful launch of a chapter that got 307 members in their first year. We're going to hear from experts in grant making, in getting media coverage, in building a remarkable newsletter that looks more like a book that people want to read. We are going to hear about how that you successfully build your leadership team, your grants liaison, what grant stewardship looks like, all of those tactical things. But here's the other thing. The theme of our conference this year is, because we're going to be in a beautiful beach, is the tides of Impact 100. Renew, recharge, and rise. The reason that this resonates so much with so many leaders is, let's face it, y'all, we work really hard. We work really hard in our volunteer roles, in our local chapters. We work really hard in our personal lives, in our other work lives, because this is work, it's just not paid work. We work really hard, and sometimes we need to heed that instruction of putting on our own oxygen mask before we start helping others. We just keep pouring out, and we help others, and we help others, and we help others, as we sometimes are gasping I say this from very personal experience. And so we're going to have inspirational keynotes. We are going to hear from the first female fighter pilot in the U.S. Air Force. She made history. Talk about breaking a glass ceiling and then some. General Jeannie Leavitt is amazing and inspiring. We're also going to hear from mighty Ruthie Bolton. If Ruthie Bolton is not a name you know, it should be. We're talking about a 2-time gold medalist in Olympic basketball, a WNBA Hall of Famer. SEC did a documentary about her life. She has done all this, and yet she's devoting her life to helping women and girls. She is a survivor of a domestic abuse situation, and she is an advocate to make sure that women know there is not a type, that there is help, and there is no shame on the other side, that there are people who will help you if you need it. Those two alone, I mean, if you haven't already registered, please register. We're still using early bird pricing. We will increase it shortly. We're also actively seeking sponsors. Those of you who have been to or hosted other conferences, and I see you and I thank you, you know that we use our sponsored dollars to help make the cost of registration more accessible. And so if you've got a small business that you think other women within the world of impact would benefit from, please talk to us about being a sponsor. If you're connected to a big business or a big foundation or a big funding source in order to help make this accessible, please, please, please let us know. It is going to be amazing. There are some brand new programming that Global is rolling out. You'll hear about that. You will hear about CRM systems, the pros, the cons, the good, the bad, the ugly. You'll hear about grants management platforms. It's everything from tech to belonging to refilling your own cup, to taking time to sit and recover before you turn around and help others. It is going to be amazing. The hotel block is very accessible. I can tell you that I personally am coming early and staying late. Now, you might say I have to because I'm part of the planning team, and that's true. But and so I'll be working when I come early and stay late. But from your vantage point, if you can get there early and take a couple walks on the beach, we'll start Sunday afternoon. We go all day Monday, and then we conclude Tuesday at about lunchtime. This is October 26th to the 28th. I hope to see you all there. And with that, I am 5 minutes past the hour. I thank you all for being a part of this. And please come back next month and the month after. And I promise I'll get to the rest of these questions first. But thank you. And I hope today is not taxing for you. But I appreciate all you do, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.